No one's coming. It's up to you. You're not a kid anymore. I'm dead serious about this. So many of you are waiting to be picked. By who? Are you making the most of your life?
The only message I want to get across to people is once you change one thing, your mindset, you can attack everything.
Ultimately, whatever you believe, you got to live it, and it should lead to growing and giving. If you're growing, you feel alive. If you're giving, you feel 10 times more alive.
Right now, you're the sum total of where you've been investing your energy throughout your entire life. So the goal really in life is to figure out what it is you want, right? What's your purpose in life, who and what's important in your life, and be able to direct energy towards that so that you can manifest that in your life.
You have to have a meaning in life that sustains you. Life is a serious business. You're all in, and you need a meaning that can sustain you through that, and that's to be found in responsibility.
Allow life to come to you. You don't have to force it. Open your heart and see what possibilities reveal themselves to you. And that it's not your fault. The way the world is, and even the way you are, it's not your fault. Just accept yourself.
Life is short. We don't know how short it's going to be. But if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love. You would do what you love. You'd take awe in a sunset. You'd smell the air. You would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait? Right? Why wait? Why not just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me, I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right?
Yes.
You're worried about what was done or what you should have done or what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all.
Right.
I'm going to live in a beautiful state. Because here's what's going to happen. Anybody watching, you may lose a family member, you probably will. Somebody may get cancer. Your business the government might change the rules. They might change things radically that you can't even do anything about it. You might go bankrupt. You might get divorced. I'm not saying anybody will, but no one knows what's going to really happen in your life. Life's full of uncertainty, but here's what you can know. You can decide no matter what happens, you could have a great time. If somebody like Viktor Frankl can be locked up in Auschwitz and come out of that and experience finding joy in the middle of Auschwitz, then human beings have a capacity they've undersold themselves on. We think that the outside world determines how we feel. If people have to behave a certain way, if your husband or your wife or your kids or your coworkers or whoever, your boss has to behave a certain way for you to be happy, and if they don't, you're unhappy, then you're always going to be unhappy, because the more people around you, the more they're going to change that, because they're all human, right? And if you have to be a certain way to be happy, you're going to violate it too. So my invitation is, as great as it is to achieve, more important to enjoy.
Right.
And if you can enjoy every moment in that state, when you're feeling loving and playful and passionate and curious and awe, you treat other people 100 times better than when you're feeling frustrated, pissed off, overwhelmed, worried, stressed, or feeling sorry for yourself.
Right.
You're going to be a better parent. You're going to be a better lover. You're going to be a better business person. You're going to have a better life. So my soliloquy is decide today. And actually say, what if I cut it off? What if I said, I'm not willing to settle and I'm just going to live in a beautiful state? Doesn't mean you won't feel bad. It doesn't mean you won't stay there. You instantly change. That's doable. I'm on a mission to help people end suffering.
What I know is that true change comes down to 5-second windows. That moment that you know you need to do something that feels slightly uncomfortable, and your resignation, your excuses, your self-doubt start cranking up in your head, you got to move. You have to move. And so what happened for me is I invented a hack, a brain hack. It's the stupidest thing in the world. And it turns out that it's actually tremendously profound and powerful at a neurological level and at a scientific and a psychological level. When I invented it, I had no clue what I had invented. And it took me about 3 years from the moment that I invented it to actually realize that I think I've discovered the secret to changing anything. I called it the 5-second rule, because I never intended to talk about it. It was a cheat to beat the alarm clock. Here's how it goes. The alarm rings in the morning. Most of us don't want to get out of bed, right? But we know we should. So I would go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The moment the alarm rang, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just like NASA, what they do, they count down to launch a rocket ship. And the counting backwards kind of shut my mind off. And then suddenly at 1, I would stand up. And I would use this every single morning to get out of bed. And 9 years later, I still use it every single morning to get out of bed. I think some behavior you can learn and automate. Other stuff that you don't like doing, you're going to always have to push yourself. That's just how it is. And I noticed 2 things as I started to use it. I noticed that window where I'd be lying in bed and I'd have the knowledge that I should get up, but in my body I wouldn't feel it. And as I lied in bed, and you can try this tomorrow morning, set your alarm earlier than you normally do, and watch what happens. The alarm will go off and your mind knows that you said you would get up. Your mind has that wisdom, your gut has that wisdom. It's holding on to it, and then it starts to kind of nudge you with a little guilt. And then what'll happen is all of a sudden you'll start talking yourself out of doing the thing you said you would do.
Yeah, it's too cold, or I'm too tired, or...
And it happens in less than 5 seconds. And so what I know is that those are 2 different parts of your brain going at once. And if you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you interrupt the habit of self-doubt and the habit of talking yourself out of it and shutting down the part of the brain that actually minimizes your power, and you awaken the part of the brain that is active in functional MRIs when you're trying to change. And so all you need to know to change anything is A, you're never going to feel like it. You're never going to feel ready to start that business. You're never going to feel ready to have that hard conversation. You're never going to feel like getting out of bed. You're never going to feel like it's a good idea to apply for that promotion. We're designed to stay comfortable and safe. So if you know that you're A, never going to feel like it, and B, that no one's coming, it's up to you. You're not a kid anymore. I'm dead serious about this. Yeah. Like so many of you are waiting to be picked. By who? Are you making the most of your life? And the answer is yes, if you pay attention to what you do in 5-second windows. Are you the kind of person that when your instincts come alive and they want to nudge you to go talk to that cute gal across the way or raise your hand in a meeting and share that idea? Are you the kind of person that pushes yourself to step into that? Or do you pull back? That's the power of a 5-second decision, because you can't choose how you feel. You can't. Yeah, maybe you can go and become a Buddhist monk and meditate for 4 months and get full control of your physiology, and yeah, technically you can control how you feel, but you and I can't. We got a job, you got kids you got to raise. You can't, that's not possible. So you can do something else. You can actually disregard your feelings. You can become the kind of person that is so in tune with the values that you have and what you actually want, that when feelings rise up, you can choose to act however you want despite them. Even if you're tired, you can still go to the gym. Even if you're annoyed with your spouse, you can still speak in a manner that's loving. Even if you don't feel like doing that hard work, you can still push yourself to do it. Your feelings aren't a choice. Your behavior and your thoughts are always a choice.
Don't be too attached to things. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean deny the world. It might mean deny the world if you're too in love with the material, like with material well-being, let's say, then your pathway to transcendence and meaning might be to abandon that because it's constraining you. It's making you less than you could be. But the fundamental lesson, the more fundamental lesson that's underneath that is don't let what you are stop you from being what you could be. Right. And so then the question is, well, what do you identify with? Do you identify with what you are? Then you're a tyrant. Do you identify with chaos? Because that's the opposite of order, say. Then you're nihilistic. Well, you don't identify with either of those. You know that they're both necessary. You know that you have to live with both of them, but you identify with the capacity to continually transcend what you are. And then you seek out error. That's what humility is. It's like, I'm error-ridden. It's like, so I want to put myself in a situation where I can discover one of my errors, hopefully not in a way that's going to knock me completely out of the game, right? I want to seek out a challenge. I want to find out where my limits are. I want to find out where there's not enough of me yet. And I want to do that in a way that's engaging because,
you can wear yourself out fighting dragons, obviously. You can exhaust yourself completely, and that's not helpful. One of the things I learned, for example, when I was coaching lawyers, these were people who had very high-end careers, and so they had an infinite workload. No matter how much they worked, flat out, there was always way more work that they should do. It's a very difficult thing to learn to manage. And so they were exhausting themselves, and I said, well, you have to work less per day. It's like, well, no, that's not happening. I can't do that. And so what I learned over time was, okay, so this is what you have to do. Every 3 months, you have to block off 4 days and go have a vacation. And you have to plan that in advance so it's in your calendar so that your secretary doesn't book your time. And then you need that because you have to recuperate enough so that you can work as hard as you're going to work. And of course, they were nervous about that. And I said, well, look, we can calibrate this. Let's keep track of your billable hours over the next year and see if they increase or decrease. Because I bet you if you take more time off, you'll actually have more billable hours. You'll actually have your cake and eat it too. You'll get to have a vacation and you'll be more productive. And that inevitably, that was what happened. And so that's a matter of calibrating the game properly, right? You want to play a game that you can play today, but also one that you can play next week and next month. We're not talking about, your career this week. We're talking about you having a career that lasts 30 years, that doesn't kill you, that doesn't make you hate yourself or the job, that doesn't make you bitter, that doesn't wear you to a frazzle. So it has to be optimized. And so I think that you can, in fact, decide to take on the load that's optimally meaningful if you want, and then you get to have your cake and eat it too. You're on the pathway to continual incremental improvement. You only have to burn off a feather at a time instead of having the whole bloody thing burst into flames. But it's a constant source of renewal. And there's an idea that to be renewed, you have to drink the water of life, right? That's an old mythological idea. And what's the water? The water of life. Chaos is water. Water is chaos. Water is what washes away too much order. And to stay continually, let's say, refreshed by the water of life is to take on exactly the right amount of chaos to make sure that your garden is properly nourished. And I think meaning is actually the marker of that.
Anybody that can accomplish anything that is hard, the only separator is that they really want to be there. There's some people that get inspired, and that inspiration moves them to try to do something. But the inspiration is very high right now in this nice environment. We're in a nice environment. The ocean's out there. I'm talking to you. If I want to go to get something to drink, eat, I can. I watch a movie about some badasses, you're inspired. But the second you're not in this environment and you're actually doing what inspired you, that suck factor is now real. You're now there. And only those people who have been there 1,000,000 times in their minds and have lived in that water and have suffered 1,000,000 times and realize my legs may break, my knee may break, my bones will hurt. I will be the coldest I've been in my life. I will be miserable, and accept that. Because what happens is when you get in a horrible situation in life, your mind, I call it my 1-second decision. When you get in a horrible situation in life, your mind immediately says, get out of here. Everybody's does, even if you want to be there. But it starts to have all these different questions in your mind in that 1 second. And it says, okay, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Why this? Why that? And then you start to say to yourself, this is stupid. This is going to get these guys injured. Like they're going to pay for this for the rest of their lives. I'm not going to break my body up to do this. Your mind starts to say, yeah, this is stupid. But if you are already knowing that this is going to happen to you, you have all the answers to these questions that your mind starts to give you when you're in suffer mode. And that's what I realized.
You true that's your visualization of those moments over and over?
Over and over again. You have to be there but not there at the graduation. You got to be there in the worst
in the
parts
suffering
that you know over and over again. You got to live that in your mind.
Do you like suffering, or do you just deal with suffering?
Real answer, I like to get a bunch of men together. Men that are the hardest of the hard. And I want to be with these men. And I want to see them suffer. Because I'm suffering right along with you, but I want to see me get through it. I want to see what you're made of. I want to see almost like the Colosseum in Rome. And the only way to see who the baddest motherfucker is to suffer. You can't do it by writing a paper. So let's go. Because why? What I found out through my life was I thought of myself as some weak little bitch kid. And what I found out, and the only message I want to get across to people is once you change one thing, your mindset, you can attack everything. And I find it fascinating. I'm fascinated because I'll be in these moments. I put these guys on some pedestal. I was this guy who was a piece of shit looking at these, oh my God, how are you guys this amazing? But once I worked my way up there, I said, my God, man, we can all compete. Let's go. So do I like suffering? I like suffering in the way that is competitive, that brings out the absolute best in me and in everybody else.
We live in a culture where most people are dabblers today because today, if you ask me, what does it take to be happy, and give it you one word, progress. Progress equals happiness. When you're making progress in your body, even if you're not there yet, you feel good. You achieve your goal and you just sit around, you're not happy. We got to grow. We got to make progress. It's easy to make progress in the beginning of something. In the beginning of a relationship, who doesn't have a good time, right? In the beginning of starting a business, if you love what you're doing, of course you're going to have a great time. In the beginning, anything, it's easy. A job, it's fun in the beginning. It's novelty, it's new. Mastery is when you've worked, in the beginning, learning a sport. How fast do you learn tennis? I mean, just like zooms up here. You didn't know anything. You thought love, was an emotion. You find out it's a score, You go like this, but then you hit this plateau. And most people hit that plateau, they go, wrong job, wrong relationship, wrong business, because it's not instantly fulfilling them. But the people that go, I'm going to fight through and go deep. I'm going to find a way to break through. I'm going to find a way to learn and know more about this, any human alive, so that I can help as many human beings as possible. And it won't be bullshit. It's because I've lived it. There is a power in mastery. And how many people do you know are really committed to mastery today? Most people dabble in a million things. They master nothing and they wonder why they're unfulfilled. Because they're running for the sugar, the next thing that feels good, instead of getting past what doesn't feel good and getting to where you own something. That's what my life's about. And I think in people's lives, there's only maybe half dozen, 7, 8 categories that really matter. Most people, they major in minor things. They focus on stuff that doesn't matter. They know more about this celebrity going in and out of rehab than they do about their own personal development. But I if you look at your body, where you're starting, without that, everything else is out the door. You don't want to be richest man in the graveyard. That's not going to do it. If there is energy, if there's vitality, if there's strength, it's going to show up in your relationship. It's going to show up in your business, show up in your life. That's an area you got to master. You can't dabble. It's too important. Emotions are everything. I mean, you got a ton of money, you got everybody loves you, and your primary emotions are pissed off and frustrated, then your life's pissed off and frustrated. It doesn't matter if you got $1 billion or 1 million people loving you, your life is not great. Relationships, intimate relationships especially. It's where the most juice in life comes from. It's where the most pain comes from most people. It's worth mastering instead of dabbling. Really looking at what are you going to do with your time and mastering your time. Instead of having a checklist, you cross it all off. You can mistake movement for achievement. I want to squeeze out of that time what matters, that creates value for me and for everyone I care about and love. What about your career or your business and the mastery of that instead of dabbling? Most businesses are dabblers. That's why they don't make it. 96%, in any 10-year period of time, 4% make it. That doesn't even mean they're profitable. And it does not mean they're enjoying themselves, all right? Or they're getting anybody else to feel good. Really mastering money, so that it's not a question in your life. You can do and be and give and share as much as you want. You're not stressed about it. You live in a place of abundance. And then spiritually, really, I think, I don't tell people what to believe spiritually, but I believe that ultimately, whatever you believe, you got to live it. And it should lead to growing and giving. If you're growing, you feel alive. If you're giving, you feel 10 times more alive. And I think if someone can celebrate and give, and that spiritual state. So to me, those are the areas I look at mastering. Business for sure, but it's the areas of life that matter most. And most of where we spend our time doesn't make people feel fulfilled. That's why the average person is not fit and healthy. The average person is not in a relationship where they have tremendous passion. I'm not a dummy. I'm not a positive thinker. I know the truth. The average person is not successful in business. The average person is not earning what they want to earn. But you know what? Very few people have those things, but a few do. A few are happy, fulfilled, spiritually alive, financially strong, their business is growing, they have passionate love affairs, and I'm obsessed with finding the few who do and find out what they do different and teaching to everybody.
If I took a watering can and I watered a garden bed, would the weeds grow or the flowers grow? both, right? Water has no ability to discriminate between the weeds and the flowers. Whatever I water starts to grow. Energy is the same way as well. If I took energy and I invested it into something negative, it will grow and become more negative. If I took energy, invested it into something positive, it will grow and become more positive. Energy has no ability to discriminate between what's positive and what's negative. Whatever you invest energy into starts to grow and manifest in your life. Right now, you're the sum total of where you've been investing your energy throughout your entire life. So the goal really in life is to figure out what it is you want, right? What's your purpose in life, who and what's important in your life, and be able to direct energy towards that so that you can manifest that in your life. So where do we begin with this? We begin by understanding how the mind works. From a monk's perspective of understanding the monk and experience of a monk's perspective of understanding the mind and experience of the mind, and my perspective and my experience of the mind, there are two things we need to understand: awareness and the mind. Let's define what they are. Let's define awareness as a glowing ball of light. So imagine an orb, a glowing ball of light that can float around. Let's call that awareness and put that aside. Now let's define the mind. Let's define the mind as a vast space with many different areas within it. One area of the mind is angry, hatred, jealousy, joy, happiness, sex, food, art, science, technology, a whole bunch of different things, right? Your awareness, that ball of light, can actually move to any area of the mind you want it to go to. So if your awareness, this glowing ball of light, goes to the happy area of the mind, it lights up that particular area of the mind. You become conscious of being happy. Are you happy? No, you're in an area of the mind called happiness. If this ball of light goes to the angry area of the mind, it lights up that particular area of the mind. Are you angry? No, you're in an area of the mind called anger. And by using your willpower and your powers of concentration, you can actually take your awareness, this ball of light, to any area of the mind that you want to go to. And here's the most important part. Where your awareness goes, that's where your energy is flowing. So if your awareness goes to the angry area of the mind, your energy is flowing there. It's actually strengthening that particular area of the mind. So this is a theory of it. One is there's a clear separation between awareness and the mind, two completely different things. Second is you can actually take your awareness and move it to any area of the mind you want it to go to. All day we allow people and things around us to dictate where our awareness goes in our mind. And this happens all day, right? All day we allow people and things to dictate where our awareness goes. And because they dictate where our awareness goes, that's where our energy flows as well. And where our energy flows is what manifests in our life. So really the goal in life is not really to control your mind, but rather to control where your awareness is going within your mind. So don't control your mind, control where your awareness goes within your mind. How do we do that? We do that by learning how. So your spiritual practice or your homework for taking away is to control where your awareness goes in your mind throughout the day. And that's really it. How do we do this? We learn the fine art of concentration. First, let's define what concentration is. I define concentration as the ability to keep your awareness on one thing for an extended period of time. Most people can't concentrate for two reasons. One is they've never been taught how to concentrate. Second is they never practice concentration. How many of you growing up here in school had classes on concentration every single day, the same way you had classes on geography, on math and science? I travel all around the world and I ask this question and nobody puts their hand up. You get told to concentrate, but you never get taught how to do it. And then if you want to be good at something, you have to practice it. If you want to be really good at concentration, you need to practice it all day. People are good at distraction because that's what they practice all day long. It's not that they don't have the ability to concentrate. They've just practiced distraction and become really, really good at it. So how do we concentrate? We concentrate by practicing doing one thing at a time and integrating this practice into our everyday life. So for me, I look at my average day and I ask myself, what's a reoccurring event in my life? Every day I speak with my spouse. Every time I speak with my spouse, I give her my undivided attention. I keep my awareness on her. It drifts away, I bring it back. It drifts away, I bring it back. I keep my awareness on her. I give her my undivided attention. Now, every day I also speak to my clients. I speak with my clients. I speak with my friends, family. Every time I speak with somebody, I give them my undivided attention. If I'm on the phone, I give the person on the phone my undivided attention. I practice doing one thing at a time. By the end of the day, I've clocked about maybe 6 to 8 hours of practicing concentration. 6 months later, I become really good at concentration. 12 months later, I become really good at concentration. The best way to become good at something is to take a tool and insert it into a reoccurring event in your life. And this is the best way to become good at something rather than to create another practice in your life. Just take a tool and insert it into the practice, into a recurring event in your life.
So what do I say to the 20-year-old? Look inside. At that time, I was going to save the world through politics. Not to ignore the politics, but pay at least as much attention internally or more than you're casting on the outside. And you don't have to work so hard to be liked and loved. You're okay. Just relax, kid, and allow life to come to you. You don't have to force it. And open your heart. Don't just focus on your clever brain so much. Open your heart and see what possibilities reveal themselves to you. And that it's not your fault. The way the world is, and even the way you are, it's not your fault. It's not a fault. Just accept yourself.
What is the best advice you've ever received in your life? From a colleague, a coworker?
I'll tell you two things. One is I had an aunt who was a physician herself. And she had not wanted to be a doctor, she wanted to be a writer. But complying with her father's wishes, she went to medical school. And she was taken to Auschwitz, where she saw her parents taken in one direction, to the gas chambers, and she was sent in another. And very sensitive, very wounded soul. But she saw me much more clearly when I was young than I could see myself. And once she quoted Shakespeare to me, and I know it's a cliche, and I know that it's in the mouth of the character Polonius, in whom Shakespeare puts this phrase, it's even hypocrisy, but it's so true. And she said to me, she wrote to me, to thine own self be true. I wish I had understood what that meant, but that's the best advice I got. And then when I was a physician, but the part of me that wanted to write hadn't really expressed himself. Because that was really in me to write and to share something with the world. And I had a patient who used to be an English professor at the University of British Columbia. He was quite a well-known Canadian poet, Warren Tallman. And I said to him when he came to the office once for a medical visit, I said, Warren, I want to write, but I don't know what. And he said, don't worry about it. He said, don't worry about it. He said, you will write when you have something to teach the world. And that's what happened. There's a lot of people out there who see the truth, but they don't control the media. And they don't write the scripts for most movies. So therefore, you might not get validation out there, but you have to believe in your own truth. And you have to deepen your relationship to your truth. And you'll connect with people that are also seeking the same truth as you are, even if they don't see it the way you do. So never be afraid of your own truth, and to explore it. Also, don't be afraid to let go of it if you find that there's a deeper truth that speaks to you. And at the same time, whatever you do out there in the world, do an equal amount of work internally. Because if you don't, your work in the world will not be as effective.